Hi, good morning. Just a short scene of part of the property that I live on. It's quite a beautiful place, quite a peaceful place, and there's a lot of energy work done here on a daily basis. With the temple, with all of the people who live here, all of us do japa. Um, you can feel the Devi here. I know a lot of people don't always know all the words I use, but I try to keep them as non-colonialized as I can. I'm not a big person who says non-colonialism or colonialism very often, but Devi is goddess. Devi is the creation of the universe. Devi is Shakti. Shakti is where the movement of everything. Shiva is the stillness, the consciousness behind everything or underneath everything, the still point at the center of the hurricane. Shakti or Devi is winds, the rain, the power of the hurricane. So she powers him, and he gives her an anchor. He and she are simple terms to use for that because they really transcend that. Those terms really transcend he and she. Because within a he is always a she, and within a she is always a he. So we're all connected in both ways. Whether we want to admit it or like it or not, it's the truth. The thing I get asked about the most is about energy. And I say that I started learning about energy when I was very, very young because I liked to be in nature. And we would go camping a lot with my grandparents. And so I was in nature all the time, and I had a lot of energy. I had a lot of Shakti at all times. I was never tired or lacking for it, and I slept 5 or 6 hours a night, and that was it. And then you get to be an adult and you don't like your life anymore because you have to work all day long, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week. And you're trying to figure out how to make it through that day. And you start sinking down, not into yourself where you should sink. You sink into these outer pleasures, into these things that take you away from yourself. And I don't mean yourself physically, although the physicality is where we're centered, we're anchored through this body. I mean your spirit, your soul. So when you start to do yoga, which I started to do yoga, Ashtanga yoga, asana practice in 2000, 25 years ago, I started to feel better. My back wasn't hurting so much, and my back went through a lot of adjustments because it was so used to being in pain that it was a little bit crooked, it was a little bit this, and as I was stretching one side and then the other side, I was trying to figure out how to let it heal itself. And I didn't know those words at the time because healing sounded like something some airy-fairy people talked about, but healing is what we were doing physically, which affects the spirit, which affects the mind. But what I didn't know at the time until I started studying Tantra in 2016, and a few years after that actually, I didn't know that what was happening was through the breath that we are using so strongly in the Ashtanga yoga practice. I was pulling prana in, and along with the prana was coming Shakti, because prana is a form of Shakti. It's I think prana is Shakti within the body. Shakti is everywhere, so I just call it all Shakti. Pranas, there are different pranas for different parts of the body, different functions of the body. So I think that once Shakti comes in, it becomes prana in the body. That's my interpretation of it. I don't have anyone who's ever told me that, but from what I've read, from what I've studied, from the things I've learned from Guruji, that's what makes sense to me. So I was starting to get some Shakti back into my body where I had pushed it out so much during my 20s. And partying isn't so bad because you're having a great time, But your senses are always going outside. So you're not paying attention to what's going on inside while you're doing it. So if you're enjoying yourself and you keep your awareness within yourself, you're going to have a different experience than if you keep going out, 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 out. Indriyas, they call them in Sanskrit. Indriyas are your senses. Not your sense organs, but the sense that you put out when you're feeling things and seeing things and going out to go and do that, to go and do this to make yourself happy, rather than coming inside and feeling what's there for happiness. So anyway, my point was I wanted to show you nature because when I was a young kid, I started to realize that being in nature is what made me feel better. And it wasn't always easy to stay in nature because, you had to go to school, you had to do all these things that I hated. When I got home, I immediately would go outside and play. And we had a wooded area behind our house, so I went back there as much as I possibly could. And then I suppressed it. And then when I started doing yoga, it started waking me back up to these facts of things that I knew. I'm not quite sure why I pushed them away, but I did. And you can't worry about why now, because this is, 25 years ago. So then you kind of correlate, oh, I was doing that when I was a kid. Why did I stop doing it? It doesn't really matter why. I'm here now. Let's start figuring this out. So I started doing yoga, and I didn't know anything except for the Ashtanga yoga practice. So I kept thinking that I really had to focus on doing more and more poses. But then some days when I was doing more and more poses, I would just feel more tired and weaker because I was not killing myself, but I was overdoing it. I wasn't ready or in need of that much movement in my body. So to find the balance took me a long time. It's just happened recently. 20 years probably it took me to find I don't have to do all that to feel good. I want my back to feel a certain way because my back used to be a problem for me. I want my mind to feel a certain way. So when I started studying Tantra and getting into pujas, puja means prayer. And so it's a form of doing rituals to God, whichever God you are attracted to, in a space in your home. And there are certain ways to do it, using fire, using water, using incense. And you invoke that feeling so that you feel it in your space. And then you work toward, typically in Tantra, you get a mantra. And the mantra, which I talked about on a video recently, is about your mind. So you're bringing the energy of that God into your mind, into your body, into your spirit. And that's when you start to feel this unlocking and this unfolding and this energy movement that's going to happen eventually. Hopefully it happens sooner than later. It took me a long time to feel it because I had repressed it for so long. I had to relearn how to feel it. So what I'm going to say to you is, I don't care what age you are. If you can sense anything within yourself and you can tell that you feel differently when you're outside or differently when you're in a certain space, start noticing the spaces you feel better in and start going to them more often. Try going into nature and feeling the natural energy, the oxygen coming, the Shakti coming from the plant life, from the flowers, from the air, from the rain, from the sky all around you, and pulling it into yourself by breathing, focusing, breathing along the central channel from the crown down to the pelvic floor, including everything in between, the navel, the heart, the throat, so that you're getting the chakra systems involved. And start noticing while you breathe, all the way from the crown to the pelvic floor, from the pelvic floor all the way to the crown. How do you feel? You're bringing in Shakti, which is becoming prana in your physical body. And how do you feel? Okay, so then stop doing that. Go and do your other things. You got to do things during the day, right, that you maybe don't like. But while you're doing things that maybe you don't like, say a job or some chores you have to do around the house, remember that feeling that you had when you were in nature, if you were feeling good, which I don't know anyone who doesn't feel better when they're in nature, and try and invoke that back in yourself while you're doing whatever it is you aren't enjoying doing, and focus on the thing you do enjoy. Focus on the feeling. Focus on how you felt when you felt great, and see if you can keep invoking that back into your body. Keep it embodied here. Let the Shakti flow through here. And then eventually you're going to start to feel the Shakti, the energy outside the self. And you can start to learn through techniques how to invoke that energy and change the energy of the space you're in. It is all possible. It's not easy to explain. And there are different techniques no matter what guru or sampradaya or parampara you belong with, you belong to. There are different techniques for it, but it is possible. So just take the simple step of going out in nature and seeing how you feel while you're in nature, and seeing if you can make that shift when you're in a space you don't like so much, and make it happen for you. We have to, control is a strong word, but we have to take back some level of control of our lives. We can't keep going outside and letting other things affect us and telling us how we're going to feel. We need to come back inside and say, I know I can feel good. How can I do that? This is a simple technique to start doing that. So think about it. Try it. Let me know how you feel. And I'll talk to you soon. Have a good day. Ciao.